Hi guys, it's Liz. So today I thought I would do a video talking about what requirements you have to do to get into NP school, and then some of the things you're going to have to do once you're accepted into a program that they're going to expect for you to give them pretty quickly. So it would kind of be a nice thing to have ahead of time, because I remember when I got in, they kind of emailed you like this list, and it was like, great, in 2 weeks you need to email me these eight things. So the first thing you need to have, obviously, to apply to most master's programs or your doctorate to become a nurse practitioner is your bachelor's in science of nursing and a registered nurse license in the state that you will live in and will be doing your clinicals in. I'm not sure exactly how it works when you're doing an online program that's based out of your state, but I don't know if you have to have licensing in that state that the school is based out of, but I do know you always have to have a license in the state that you're doing your clinical practice in. I know some programs, and I'll do a different video on this, you can do now where you have your, like it's a bachelor's and a master's or a doctorate program, and you get your RN and your NP all in one. So for that, obviously you wouldn't have to go in with your bachelor's in nursing or your nursing license, but you get it throughout the program. But that's a totally different animal, and we'll talk about that somewhere else. Some programs require you to have a GMAT or a GRE in order to get into the program. The one I applied to, it had a requirement, so it was like if your GPA in your undergrad was below or above like a 3.5, I think it was a 3.2, then you didn't have to take the GRE, which was nice, because that's a whole nother step that you don't have to worry about. A weird, I guess not weird, but a random requirement was you have to have, by the time you start the program, have had a 3-credit college statistics course that you took. So that's not by the time you applied, it's by the time you start the program. Within the last 5 years, you have to have taken a 3-credit statistics course at the college level. I think that was the one that tripped a lot of people up, because for most people, at least that I know, they had their statistics class when they were a freshman or a sophomore in college. Now it's like 4 years later, they're applying to their NP program, and it's been like just past the 5 years. So I took mine at a community college. It wasn't a big deal. It's just kind of a weird pain in the butt. You have to have, depending on the program, some require some previous nursing experience. Some you can just kind of piggyback right onto the back of your bachelor's. That's a whole other thing, whether or not you should have nursing experience. I can talk about that somewhere else, but just look into the program, whatever one you're doing, you may have to have even the year. I think mine required like a year by the time you started. So you didn't have to have any to apply, but in order to be in clinical, you had to have a year of nursing experience. You're going to have pretty decent grades in your undergrad. These programs are becoming more and more competitive to go for your nurse practitioner degree. Some programs, they'll usually list on their admissions page what their average GPA was for their admissions the year prior. And then as a general rule of thumb, I would say about a 3.0 and above in your undergrad nursing and your nursing classes. They don't really care about your GRE or your general classes. They just want to know what you got in your nursing classes. Most, I think I even want to say like we're a 3.5 now. So it's getting more and more competitive as more and more people are trying to go back to school to get their nurse practitioner degree. Things that you are going to need kind of in the application process are, you're going to need letters of recommendation. This was something I wish I had looked for earlier. So I needed to have 3 letters of recommendation. 2 of them had to come from people that already had masters in nursing, which was kind of a hiccup that I hadn't anticipated. So I would start like looking around in your coworkers, looking at people who you used to work with who went on and got their degree, people that like in your office, like if your supervisor or your manager have their masters, perfect, that would look really good. But just start thinking of who you're going to ask to write your letters of recommendation. Ask them plenty of time in advance. they usually send them a form, and it's like, answer 8 million questions about this applicant, and it's just nice to be able to give them like at least a month to work on this. And then I got all of mine like a $5 Starbucks gift card or something, just to say, hey, thanks. You're gonna want to usually apply like a year in advance, so it's not generally like rolling admission. It's like you apply a whole year prior to when you would start. So that's something to keep in mind. I remember when I applied, I was like, oh my gosh, like I had only had 2 years of experience, and that seemed super soon to me. But then I was like, oh, but by the time I start, I'll have 3. It's a 3-year program. I'll end with like 6 years of experience, and that has ended up being a really good amount of time, I think. You are going to have to write some essays. Those are, why do you want to be a nurse practitioner? Give me examples of this. I'm going to do a different video on things like that might be helpful in writing your essays, because I have helped a couple of people write them and picked up a few pointers along the way, and I've talked to admissions people. But just kind of start those early if you can. They're annoying. For me, that was the worst part. I hate writing essays. They're going to require, you're going to have an interview. I know they can be like on Skype, something like that. If you're doing a distance learning program, mine I had to go up and drive an interview. And then the interviews usually took place in, like, I applied in the fall, and in the spring I had the interviews. And then I can do a different video on interviews, because there's a lot of stuff I wish I would have asked in the interviews now looking back, that I think would be helpful. And then when you do if you get into the program, when you do, you're going to get in, you're going to require you to give you all of your immunization records. So this is another thing that, don't spring this on your mom like I did like 2 days before the deadline. I was like, I need you to find all of my immunization records from when I was a child. No. Please go back, and you're going to need to prove to them you got everything, like Hep B, all these titers, your varicella, everything. Get all of your vaccination records when you're not under a time crunch, so your poor mother is not going through all of the binders in her home trying to find your immunization records 2 nights before your packet is due. You're going to need to show them, you got your flu shot. You're going to need to prove your license number. I mean, some places I think I needed like fingerprint documentation, but a lot of states require that for your nursing license, so that wasn't something that I had to go out and get on top of it. I needed to have my BLS. I need to show them that. If you are doing like an acute care program, you may need to, I know some require ACLS or PALS. So if you're doing like an acute care, or a lot of DNP programs require ACLS or PALS. So that's just something to kind of be aware of in case you don't have those. I think, you need your TB, and then just all of your, whatever your normal immunizations were that you had to get, usually for working like as a nurse in the first place. I think it's like Hep B, whatever the normal ones are. Have your records ready. They're going to want them. I think that is pretty much it for what you need in order to apply, and then the application fee, which is however much. And one last thing I forgot. You need your what are they called? Your transcripts from your old schools. You'll need to send those over, and that took a long time for mine too. I'm a procrastinator in case you can't tell. I had to get them like express mailed, which cost a stupid amount of money from all the schools that I had gone to, because in my mind I was like, oh, like a month is fine. A month was not fine. It was like our regular processing amount is like up to 3 months. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so moral of the story, if you look at things ahead of time, it will be a much less stressful experience for you. But those are just a couple of things that I thought would be helpful in looking at the whole application process. Thanks.